Jake snickered. Oh, I think she knows you pretty well by now. Zane and Serena leaned closer, her eyes sparkling with interest. But I already feel close to you, Zane. Isn't that enough to deepen this bond? I want to experience everything humans do when they're close. What comes after this? Zane swallowed hard, feeling cornered. Well, usually, it's more about understanding each other on a deeper level. It's not just about the physical stuff. Serena's fingers lightly brushed his arm, sending a shiver down his spine. I feel like I already understand a lot about you, Zane. You've been kind, protective, and you make me feel safe. Isn't that part of bonding? Jake was having way too much fun watching Zane squirm. Sounds like you're doing a great job. Buddy Zane shot him a desperate look, but Jake wasn't going to let up. What do you think, Zane? Shouldn't you help her explore this? Bond even further? Serena's gaze never wavered, her fingers still lightly tracing Zane's arm. I want to experience everything, she said softly. I want to know what it feels like to be close to you in every way. Hey, I'm just saying. She's eager to learn. Don't want to disappoint her, right? Serena's fingers trailed down Zane's arm again, her touch light but deliberate. I trust you, Zane. I want to learn everything. With you. Zane felt like he was going to melt into the mattress. We'll, get to that. Slowly, Serena's smile remained soft, her gaze never leaving his. I'm patient. As long as we're together, I'm happy. Jake let out a low whistle. Man, you're in deep, Zane. Good luck. As Jake turned to leave again, Serena's attention shifted fully back to Zane, her eyes filled with unspoken questions and possibilities. So she said softly, her fingers brushing against his hand, what's the next step in human bonding, Zane? I'm ready to learn. Whatever comes next. Zane's heart was pounding, and he knew this wasn't going to get any easier. One thing was certain, Serena wasn't going anywhere, and the bond between them was only getting stronger. Where it would lead next, well, that was anyone's guess. Zane took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart as Serena's fingers continued their gentle exploration of his hand. Zane rolled his eyes. It's not like that, man. She's just attached, but Jake wasn't going to let it go. Attached, like, she can't leave your side. That's gotta be fun. He gave Zane a wink, clearly enjoying his friend's predicament. Serena tilted her head. Is this not normal for humans? Jake laughed. Nope, not at all. But it's definitely entertaining. Despite Jake's teasing, Zane's day started like any other for Zane. He was a laid-back, adventurous guy with a knack for getting into trouble. And today was no different. He had been hiking through the deep woods outside of town when he heard something odd, a distant cry, almost like a whimper. Curious and cautious, Zane followed the sound, pushing through the thick underbrush until he stumbled upon a strange scene. A girl, barely dressed in tattered clothing, was cornered by what looked like a pack of wild creatures. He shifted beneath her, their closeness making it impossible to ignore the way their bodies fit together. Bonding. It's about sharing more than just feelings or moments. It's about understanding what you really want from each other. Serena's fingers stilled on his shirt. And what if I know exactly what I want? Zane's breath hitched. You do? She nodded, leaning in closer until her lips were almost touching his. I've learned so much from you, Zane, about humans, about connection, about trust. But now I want more than just knowledge. I want you. Zane's heart raced as her words sank in. Serena, you have to understand. I understand perfectly. She interrupted softly, her breath warm against his lips. I don't want to be away from you, not ever. I want us to be connected, not just as teacher and student, but as something more. Her words were as clear as they were bold, and Zane realized there was no more hiding behind explanations. She had been learning all along about desire, about closeness, and about what it meant to truly connect with someone. Serena, we have to be sure, Zane said quietly, though even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Zane felt his heart racing again. Yeah, about that. Maybe we should just take things slow, you know? Step by step. Serena smiled, her hand resting on his chest again. I trust you to guide me, Zane. Show me what comes next. Jake chuckled, pushing off the wall and heading for the door. Well, I'll leave you two to explore your bond. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, Zane. Before Zane could protest, Jake was already gone, leaving him alone with Serena. The silence in the room grew heavy, and Zane could feel the weight of Serena's curious gaze on him. So, what happens now? She asked, her voice soft, almost breathless. Zane sighed, running a hand through his hair. I guess we'll figure that out together. Serena's smile widened, her hand still resting on his chest, her touch warm and inviting. I'm looking forward to it, Zane. I want to experience everything. With you, Zane gulped, feeling like he was in way over his head. This was going to be more complicated than he ever imagined. And it was far from over. Zane's mind was spinning. Her closeness was overwhelming, and despite her innocent demeanor, there was no denying the intensity of the moment. The soft glow from the bedside lamp cast a warm light over the room, amplifying the tension. Okay, Zane said, his voice a little shaky. The next step in bonding is trust. You have to trust each other completely. Serena tilted her head, her silver eyes locked onto his. I trust you, Zane. I trust you more than anyone. You've always protected me. Zane smiled nervously, his pulse quickening as Serena leaned in even closer, her lips just inches from his. Why, yeah, but it's more than just physical protection. It's about sharing things, feelings, thoughts, desires. Her eyes widened slightly. Desires, she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. What kind of desires? Zane gulped. This was getting out of hand fast. Well, in human relationships, desires can be emotional, or sometimes physical, but it's important to understand boundaries. Like I mentioned earlier, her fingers lightly traced the outline of his jaw as she considered his words. But I don't understand why there needs to be boundaries between us. They had sharp claws, glowing eyes, and fangs that dripped with menace. Zane's heart raced, but there was something strange about the girl. Her skin shimmered faintly, almost like it was catching the sunlight in a way that was natural. Without thinking, Zane grabbed a nearby branch and shouted to scare off the beasts. Surprisingly, they scattered, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. The girl collapsed to the ground, clearly exhausted. Zane rushed to her side. Hey, are you okay? He asked, gently touching her shoulder. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes. This kind of bond. It changes everything. Serena smiled softly, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. I know, and I'm ready for it. Are you? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Zane looked into her eyes, and in that moment he realized the answer had been in front of him all along. He cared about her more than he had been willing to admit, even to himself. Her presence, her persistence, her desire to understand him on every level. It had drawn him in just as much as she had been drawn to him. Without another word, Zane leaned in and closed the gap between them. Their lips met in a soft, electric kiss that made everything else fade away. Serena responded instantly, her hands sliding up to his shoulders as she pressed herself closer, the warmth of her body seeping into his. It was a kiss filled with all the unspoken things between them: curiosity, desire, and the bond they had formed over time. As their lips parted, Zane found himself smiling, the tension between them melting into something much deeper, something real. Serena's eyes shimmered with happiness as she whispered, Now I understand. This is what I've been searching for. I don't feel any distance when I'm near you, Zane. Why should we hold back? Zane was struggling to maintain his composure. Her touch was soft, almost teasing, and her innocent questions were making it hard to focus on anything other than the growing tension between them. Sometimes humans need space to think about their feelings, Zane explained, though his own thoughts were becoming more jumbled by the second. Serena blinked, clearly not fully grasping his meaning. I don't need space. I know exactly how I feel. She moved closer, her body pressing against his as she whispered, I feel drawn to you, Zane. I want to explore this connection more. Zane's breath caught in his throat. He was acutely aware of her warmth, her closeness, and the way her eyes seemed to see right through him. I think we're moving a little fast, he managed to say, though it was becoming increasingly difficult to resist the pull between them. Serena tilted her head, her soft lips curling into a smile. I thought you said humans bond slowly, step by step. But every time I'm with you, I feel like I don't want to wait. Zane's mind raced. Serena's gaze was fixed on him, her innocent curiosity mixing with something deeper, something more intense. He was starting to realize that her alien understanding of bonding was far more literal than he had anticipated. Oh, okay, Zane stammered, feeling the pressure build as Serena stayed inches from him, her fingers still lightly tracing circles on his chest. Let's talk about human boundaries. That's a good place to start. Serena tilted her head. Boundaries. What are those? Zane cleared his throat, trying to focus. Well, boundaries are personal space. You know, like when two people are close, they usually respect each other's space. Serena's brow furrowed slightly. But you saved me, and I feel safe with you. Why would I need space from someone I feel connected to? Zane scratched his head, trying to find a delicate way to explain. It's just, sometimes humans need a bit of breathing room. It doesn't mean we don't like each other, it's just part of the process. Serena's lips curved into a playful smile, and she leaned in a little closer, her breath warm against his cheek. You saved me. Her voice was soft, almost melodic, but her words carried a weight that made Zane's stomach flip. She wasn't just any girl, that much was clear. Her skin, now up close, had a soft glow, and her hair shimmered with a mix of colors that no human could possibly have. I'm Zane. Who are you? He asked, helping her to her feet. I am Serena, she whispered, looking around with uncertainty. I've never been in this world before. Zane's eyes widened. Wait, you're not from here. Serena shook her head, brushing her silver hair out of her face. No, I come from a place far away. I was chased here by those creatures. I need help. Zane, feeling both curious and protective, Zane brought her back to his small cabin in the woods. It was simple but cozy, with a fireplace, a comfy bed, and a small kitchen. Serena was quiet the entire time, staring out the window as if watching for something, perhaps the creatures that had attacked her. That night, as Zane prepared to sleep on the couch, Serena hesitated. Zane, she said softly, I don't understand. Your customs here. But I'm afraid. Do you mind if I stay close to you? Zane chuckled softly, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. Yeah, I think I've been searching for it too. Serena's smile widened, and she leaned her forehead against his. Does this mean we're bonded now? Truly, Zane nodded, his heart full. Yeah, Serena. We're bonded. For a long moment they stayed like that, wrapped in each other's warmth, the bond between them now undeniable. What had started as a simple lesson had turned into something far more profound, something neither of them had expected, but something they both needed. As the night deepened and the stars outside twinkled in the sky, Zane realized that their journey together had only just begun. Whatever the future held, he knew they would face it together side by side, and connected in ways that went beyond anything either of them could have imagined. And as Serena curled up next to him, her head resting on his chest, Zane felt a sense of peace settle over him. She wasn't leaving, and honestly he didn't want her to. Not now, not ever. Their story had only just begun. Zane blinked, caught off guard. He wasn't used to beautiful, otherworldly girls asking to share a bed with him, especially ones that he'd just met. Sure, he said, awkwardly scratching the back of his head. If that'll make you feel safer. She gave a small, grateful smile and slipped into the bed. Zane tried to relax on the edge, but Serena, apparently unfamiliar with the concept of personal space, scooted right up next to him, resting her head on his chest. Her hair tickled his skin, and Zane felt his heart race. This is what humans do when they are close, yes? She asked innocently. Zane chuckled nervously. Not exactly, but it's fine. As the days passed, Serena stayed close to Zane, really close. She had no concept of privacy or boundaries, and Zane found it both amusing and confusing. She insisted on following him everywhere, sitting on his lap when he tried to eat, and even curling up next to him at night, claiming it was the only way she could feel connected to this world. Things got more complicated when Zane's best friend, Jake, came over to visit one day. Jake was the kind of guy who had a playful nature and never took things too seriously. So you're saying I'm too close? Zane swallowed hard. A little bit, yeah. Her smile didn't waver as she slowly shifted onto his lap, her knees resting on either side of his legs. Zane froze, his pulse racing. Is this too close? She asked, her innocent tone betraying the mischief in her eyes. Zane's mind was in overdrive. Serena, this is definitely crossing into very close territory. Serena's fingers lightly trailed along his jawline, her touch feather light. But I'm learning so much from you, Zane. You said bonding is about getting to know each other deeply. I want to know everything about you. Zane's voice came out a little shaky. Why, yeah, but there are different ways to bond, and some of them take time. Serena's smile grew even softer as she leaned in closer, her lips just inches from his. I feel like we've already spent so much time together. Do humans really need more? Before Zane could respond, the door swung open again. Jake stood there, eyes wide, his mouth open in exaggerated shock. Whoa. I came by to grab my jacket, but looks like I stumbled onto something way more interesting. Well, yeah, but he was cut off as Serena's hand slid up to his cheek, her touch tender yet electric. Show me, Zane, she whispered, her voice filled with that irresistible blend of curiosity and something deeper. Show me what comes next. Zane's heart was pounding in his chest. Her words, her touch, her closeness, it was all too much. He was trying so hard to keep things under control, but Serena's innocent insistence on understanding human connection was making it impossible to keep his thoughts straight. He was about to speak again when the door creaked open, and there stood Jake again. He raised an eyebrow at the sight of Serena practically draped over Zane. Still teaching, Jake said, trying and failing to hide his amusement. Man, you're a dedicated teacher. Zane let out a groan, feeling like the universe was playing a cruel joke on him. Jake, can you please give us some privacy? Jake grinned, holding his hands up in mock surrender. Hey, I'm just making sure things don't get too advanced. For educational purposes. Serena looked over at Jake, her expression as calm and composed as ever. Zane's been teaching me about human bonding. I think I'm starting to understand more now. It's very intimate, isn't it? Jake let out a low chuckle. Oh, it can be, Serena. Especially with the right teacher. He shot Zane a teasing wink. Looks like you're in good hands. Zane glared at Jake, feeling his patience wearing thin. Jake, seriously out. Jake raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying himself far too much. Fine. I'm gone. But don't forget, demonstrations speak louder than words. With that, he left, closing the door behind him thankfully, this time without any interruptions. Serena turned her full attention back to Zane, her fingers gently brushing his hair. Do you think I'm learning well, Zane? She asked softly, her voice full of sincerity. Zane exhaled, trying to steady himself. You're definitely learning. Her smile widened, and she leaned in even closer, her lips now dangerously close to his. Good, she whispered, her breath warm against his skin. Because I want to keep learning, as long as it's with you. Zane jumped, almost knocking Serena off his lap in his haste to put some space between them. Jake, he sputtered, his face burning. This isn't what it looks like. Jake raised an eyebrow, leaning casually against the doorframe. Oh, really? 'Cause it sure looks like my buddy here is getting cozy with his alien princess. Serena, however, didn't seem fazed by Jake's interruption. In fact, she turned to him, her expression still curious. Jake, do you understand human bonding better than Zane does? He seems hesitant to teach me everything. Jake's grin widened as he looked from Serena to Zane. Oh, I understand it very well, Serena. Maybe I should be the one teaching you the finer details. Zane glared at Jake. Don't even think about it. But Serena's attention had already shifted back to Zane. She placed her hands gently on either side of his face, pulling him back into focus. I only want Zane to teach me, she said softly, her eyes gleaming with an intensity that made Zane's heart race. He's the one I trust. Jake let out a low whistle. Looks like you're in deep now, Zane. Who's this? Jake asked, raising an eyebrow at Serena, who was once again comfortably close to Zane, her head resting on his shoulder. Long story, Zane said, giving Jake a helpless look. Jake grinned. Oh, I like long stories. Spill. Serena, not one to be shy, sat up and spoke with her otherworldly grace. I am Serena, from a distant world. Zane rescued me from danger, and now I am bonded to him. Jake's eyes widened, a playful smirk forming on his lips. Oh, bonded her? So, what does that mean? Yoon found himself growing more protective of Serena. Every time she looked at him with those innocent silvery eyes, he felt a tug in his chest. She wasn't just a girl who needed help. There was something deeper, something unspoken between them that Zane couldn't quite put into words. Zane's heart was pounding, his thoughts a chaotic mess. The tension between them was undeniable. And Serena's innocent yet bold curiosity was making it impossible to think clearly. He had a feeling this lesson wasn't going to end anytime soon, and honestly, he wasn't sure he wanted it to. Zane took a deep breath, trying to regain his focus as Serena's soft words lingered in the air. Her silver eyes shimmered in the dim light of the room, and the space between them seemed to shrink with each passing second. Serena, Zane started, his voice faltering for a moment. There's a lot more to bonding than just being close. Serena, still perched comfortably on his lap, gave him a soft smile. I want to understand every part of it, Zane. Every step. She traced a finger along his arm, sending tingles through his skin. I've already learned so much, but I think there's more to discover. Zane's pulse quickened. Why, yeah, there's definitely more. But humans, we like to take things slow. Serena leaned in, her lips brushing his ear as she whispered. But why? Why would we want to wait if it feels so right being close? Good luck explaining boundaries when she's got her heart set on you. Zane shot him a desperate look, but Jake just waved it off with a grin. I'll leave you two lovebirds alone. Just try to keep it PG. Okay with that? Jake ducked out, closing the door behind him this time, thankfully for good. The room fell into silence again, with Serena still sitting comfortably in Zane's lap, her hands resting on his shoulders now. Zane could feel his pulse pounding in his ears as he tried to think of anything that would help him navigate this situation without completely losing his mind. So, Zane, Serena said, her voice soft and curious. Are you ready to teach me what comes next in human bonding? Zane's voice cracked slightly as he replied. I think we, need to go over boundaries again. Just to be safe. Serena leaned in even closer, her face mere inches from his. I'm not sure I understand why humans need these boundaries. I like being close to you, Zane. Isn't that the point? Zane's mind raced, his usual confidence completely gone. One night, as they lay in bed with Serena still insisting on being practically glued to his side, she whispered, Zane, what happens if? I cannot go back to my world. Zane's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know, he admitted, but you're not alone. We'll figure it out. Serena smiled, resting her hand over his. Thank you for everything. And so their strange, unexpected adventure continued. Each day brought new surprises, like Serena's fascination with human food, especially chocolate, her confusion over human clothing, why so many layers, and her curious questions about everything from relationships to technology. Jake, of course, loved every second of it, especially when he could drop by and make Zane squirm with awkward questions like, so, Serena, when are you two getting married? But through it all, Zane couldn't deny that his feelings for Serena were growing. Whether she stayed or somehow found a way back to her world, one thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. The next morning, Zane woke up with a start. Serena was still curled up beside him, her arm draped over his chest, her silvery hair falling across his face. Zane swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. It's just part of the process. You build trust, you get to know each other. We already trust each other, she interrupted softly, her hand gently cupping his cheek. I trust you with my life, Zane. You've saved me, protected me. And now I want to give that trust back to you. Her words hung in the air, and Zane's resolve was slipping fast. Serena wasn't just some curious alien learning about humans. She was confident, sure of what she wanted, and right now what she wanted was him. Serena, we've got to keep things balanced, Zane said, his voice shaky as her fingers trailed lightly down his neck. You know, space, time, all that good stuff. Serena tilted her head, her eyes glowing softly. I don't need space from you, Zane. I want to be close. Always. Her body pressed gently against his, and Zane could feel his own heart racing. Her warmth, her scent, everything about her was drawing him in, making it harder and harder to think straight. Isn't this what you humans call connection? Serena whispered, her lips just a breath away from his. Don't we have that, Zane? He tried to move carefully so as not to wake her, but her eyes fluttered open, and she smiled sweetly, leaning in closer. Good morning, Zane, she whispered, her voice soft and warm. This is how humans greet each other when they wake up, yes? Zane blushed, unsure how to respond. Not usually this close, he muttered, gently trying to shift away. But Serena didn't seem to notice his discomfort, or maybe she just didn't care. She stayed pressed against him, her body warm and soft, completely ignoring any concept of personal space. You're very warm. It's nice. My world doesn't have this kind of warmth, she said, resting her head back on his shoulder, completely oblivious to the effect she was having on him. Zane swallowed hard, feeling his face heat up. Why, yeah, well, humans are warm-blooded creatures, he said awkwardly, trying to think of anything else but the fact that Serena's leg was draped over his. Before he could even sit up, the door burst open. It was Jake, as usual, barging in like he owned the place. He took one look at Zane and Serena tangled up in the bed and burst out laughing. Well, being close is nice, but there are levels to it, like starting slow. Serena tilted her head, her silver eyes locking onto his. Then show me how to start. Zane's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure whether to laugh, cry, or just run for the hills. But one thing was certain: Serena wasn't going anywhere. Not from his lap, not from his side, and definitely not from his bed. Zane felt his heart race as Serena's words hung in the air. Her gaze was steady, her curiosity genuine, and yet there was an undercurrent of something more: attention he couldn't shake. She was far too close, and the way she looked at him made it clear that her idea of bonding was different from anything he was used to. Right, Zane stammered, trying to keep his voice steady, starting slow. That's important. Serena's soft fingers brushed along his neck, her touch sending a shiver down his spine. Show me how to start. Slow, then she whispered, her voice low and breathy. I want to learn everything about this human bonding process. I trust you, Zane. Zane swallowed hard, feeling his face flush. Yeah, okay, so humans usually take time to get to know each other before getting too close. Serena tilted her head, still sitting on his lap, completely comfortable. But we already know each other. I feel like I've known you forever. She leaned in, her lips dangerously close to his ear. Isn't that enough? Zane's brain short-circuited again. It's more complicated than that. Serena blinked, her expression pure and innocent, though her actions were anything but. I don't see why it has to be. I like being close to you. It feels right. Her hand slid down his arm, her fingers lightly tracing patterns on his skin. Zane's breath hitched, and he tried to stay calm. Right, but there's a process. Steps. Serena's curiosity was piqued. Like, what kind of steps? Zane was officially in over his head. Well, talking. Humans talk a lot when they're bonding. Serena's eyes brightened. We can talk. I love talking with you, Zane. She shifted slightly, her body pressing more firmly against his. What should we talk about? Zane's mind was spinning, caught between her closeness and the undeniable tension in the room. He was about to respond when the door swung open again. This time it was Tess, another crewmate, bursting in without a second thought. Zane, have you seen the? Tess stopped dead in her tracks, taking in the scene. Serena on his lap, their faces just inches apart, Zane looking completely flustered. A slow grin spread across Tess's face. Well. Looks like I walked in on something interesting. Zane groaned internally, knowing this was about to become yet another awkward interruption. Tess, really? Could you maybe knock first? Tess chuckled, folding her arms. Hey, I didn't realize you'd be giving this kind of lesson, Zane. Seems like our little alien friend is a quick learner. Serena turned to Tess, her expression still calm and curious. Zane is teaching me about human bonding, she explained innocently. It's very hands-on. Tess raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Oh, I bet it is. She gave Zane a sly look. You're not rushing her through the steps, are you? Bonding takes time, after all. Zane was about ready to bury his head in his hands. Well, what do we have here? Jake grinned, leaning against the doorframe. Didn't know you were getting this cozy. Zane shot him a glare, but Jake was having too much fun. Hey, Serena, you're adapting to human customs real quick, huh? Getting all close and cuddly. Serena lifted her head and smiled innocently at Jake. Zane said this is normal for humans. You stay close to the ones you are bonded with. Jake's grin widened. Oh, bonded her? I guess that means you two are very close. Zane groaned, rubbing his temples. It's not what you think. Jake waggled his eyebrows. Sure. Whatever you say, man. Looks to me like you're getting pretty comfortable with your new alien buddy. Serena sat up, completely unbothered by Jake's teasing. I like being close to Zane, she said simply, her silver eyes sparkling with curiosity. Is this not how humans express affection? Jake laughed. Oh, we express it, all right. Usually it leads to more than just snuggling. Zane shot Jake another glare, but Serena seemed intrigued. More. What else do humans do when they're close? Jake smirked. Zane's mind was blank. Anything. Hobbies, interests, likes and dislikes. Normal stuff. Serena seemed to think for a moment, then smiled brightly. I like being with you. I dislike being away from you. Does that count? Zane chuckled nervously. Yeah, that counts. She leaned even closer, her breath warm against his skin. What else do humans talk about when they're bonding? I want to do it right. Zane felt like he was sinking deeper into quicksand. Sometimes they talk about feelings. Like how they feel about each other. Serena's smile widened. I feel warm when I'm with you, Zane. My heart beats faster and I want to stay close to you. That's what I feel. Is that how humans feel? Zane's heart skipped a beat. That's pretty close. Yes, Serena's hand moved up to cup his cheek, her touch soft and intimate. Then I think I'm bonding with you the right way, Zane. Isn't this how humans connect? Zane's pulse was racing. It's close, but before he could finish, the door creaked open just a crack, and a familiar voice broke the tension. Hey, Zane, you decent in there? Oh, you'll have to ask Zane about that. He's the expert. Zane nearly choked on his own breath. Okay, that's enough, Jake, but Serena, always curious, tilted her head, her gaze fixed on Zane. What does he mean by more? Zane, what else do humans do when they are close like this? Zane's face turned beet red. Well, it's complicated. Jake couldn't hold back his laughter. Yeah, Zane, why don't you explain it to her? Zane shot Jake a look that could kill. You're not helping. Jake shrugged. Just trying to help your alien friend understand human culture. It's educational. Before Zane could respond, Serena moved closer again, her eyes wide and innocent. I want to learn more about human affection, she said, her voice soft but insistent. You've already shown me so much, Zane. What's next? Zane froze, completely at a loss for words. Jake, of course, was having the time of his life watching Zane squirm. Well, buddy, Jake said with a grin, looks like you've got your hands full, literally. Serena looked between the two of them, confused. Is this part of the affection process? Tess, can we not do this right now? Tess laughed and leaned against the doorframe. I'm just saying, Zane, you've got your work cut out for you. She gave Serena a playful wink. You're in good hands, though. Serena smiled back at Tess. I feel safe with Zane. He's a good teacher. Tess gave Zane a look that was half teasing, half impressed. Well, don't let me interrupt. Just keep it professional. All right, Zane shot her a glare. We're being perfectly professional. Tess smirked. Sure you are with that. She gave a mock salute and stepped out, leaving the two of them alone again. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken tension. Serena turned back to Zane, her hands resting gently on his shoulders. Is this what humans call teasing? Tess seemed to enjoy interrupting us. Zane sighed, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. Yeah, Tess has a unique sense of humor. Serena smiled softly. I don't mind. As long as we're together, nothing else matters. Her words sent a shiver through Zane. She was relentless in her pursuit of understanding human connection, and the way she looked at him made it clear she wasn't backing down. It was Jake again, clearly trying not to laugh as he peeked through the door. Or should I come back later? Zane groaned, leaning back against the headboard. Jake. Seriously, Jake pushed the door open wider, his grin as wide as ever. Look, I'm just making sure you're not teaching anything too advanced. Serena turned to Jake, still sitting comfortably on Zane's lap. Zane's teaching me about human bonding. It's very educational, Jake snickered. Oh, I bet it is. You picking up on everything? Serena nodded earnestly. Yes. Zane's been very thorough so far, but I still have a lot to learn. He says we need to talk more. Jake burst out laughing. Talking her? Yeah, Zane's definitely stalling. Zane shot him a glare. I'm not stalling. Jake leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Sure. Just remember, buddy, teaching is all about demonstration. You can't leave the poor girl hanging. Serena turned back to Zane, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Demonstration. What should we demonstrate next? Zane's face turned bright red. Jake, you're not helping. Jake shrugged, clearly enjoying every second of this. Hands being full, Jake almost doubled over laughing. Oh, Serena, you are a gem. Zane buried his face in his hands. It's not like that, but Serena, ever persistent, wasn't ready to drop the subject. She sat up fully, her eyes shining with curiosity. I'm willing to learn whatever you're ready to teach me. Zane gulped, his mind racing. This was going to be a long day. Zane cleared his throat, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks again. Serena's innocent curiosity was relentless, and Jake's laughter wasn't helping at all. Serena, Zane started, choosing his words carefully. Some things about human affection are a bit more complicated than just staying close. Serena blinked at him, her wide, silvery eyes never leaving his. Complicated. I want to understand everything about human customs. Zane, you've been a very good teacher so far. Zane could feel the pull between them growing stronger with every moment, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold on to his self-control. "So," Serena whispered, her fingers lightly tracing the collar of his shirt, "what comes next in this bonding process, Zane?" "I'm ready to learn more." "If you're ready to teach," Zane's breath hitched. He knew that if he didn't think of something fast, this lesson was about to take a very unexpected turn. Zane felt the tension between them crackle like static in the air. Serena's gaze held him captive, her fingers brushing the edge of his shirt with deliberate softness. He knew that every second of hesitation only deepened the connection between them, but it wasn't just Serena's curiosity anymore. He could feel something deeper. Her alien innocence had long faded into something more intimate, more deliberate, and Zane knew she wasn't asking questions for the sake of learning anymore. She wanted something real, something tangible. She wanted him. "Serena," Zane whispered, trying to find the right words as his pulse quickened. "Yes." Zane, her voice was gentle, but there was an undeniable eagerness in her eyes. Jake, still grinning ear to ear, leaned in against the wall. "Yeah, Zane, you've been a great teacher. Maybe it's time to give her the next lesson." Zane shot him a look that said, "I'm going to kill you later," but Jake didn't seem fazed at all. Serena, still blissfully unaware of the awkwardness she was causing, scooted even closer to Zane, her hand gently resting on his chest. "I'm ready for the next lesson," she said softly, tilting her head in that curious way she always did. What else do humans do when they're bonded? Zane felt like his brain had short-circuited. Well, there's more to being close than just physical stuff. There's, emotional connection, too." He was stumbling over his words, and Serena's unwavering gaze wasn't making it easier. "Emotional connection," she repeated, her brow furrowing slightly. "I'm still trying to understand human emotions, but I think I've felt something new since I've been with you." Zane, she placed her hand over her heart, her expression serious. "When I'm near you, there's a warmth inside me that I can't explain." "Is that emotion?" Zane blinked, taken aback. "Why, yeah, that sounds like it." Jake, of course, jumped in with his usual teasing. "Oh, she's definitely feeling something, all right." Serena nodded thoughtfully. "Then I want to feel more of it." "How do I do that?" Zane's face flushed even more. It's not something you can just force. It takes time. You've got to, get to know the other person better."